She was just enjoying her meal when a big, angry biker grabbed her arm, his voice full of hate as he yelled, "You don't belong here." The whole place fell silent as he shoved her, but instead of fear in her eyes, there was something else, calm, unshaken power. What she did next leaves everyone speechless. At a booth near the window, Serena Caldwell sat alone, calmly cutting into a stack of pancakes. She wasn't in uniform today, just a simple green t-shirt and jeans. Serena was a soldier, United States Army. Combat-trained, disciplined, and fearless. She had been stationed in Texas for the past 2 years, but was home in Missouri for a short break. She had seen combat, survived dangerous missions, and trained alongside some of the toughest men and women in the military. But none of that was on her mind right now. All she wanted was to enjoy her breakfast in peace. The peace didn't last long. A group of 4 bikers sat at a nearby table, dressed in black leather vests with a Skull and Flag emblem on the back. They were loud, drinking beer even though it was barely noon, and throwing back pancakes like they hadn't eaten in days. One of them, a massive man with short blonde hair, kept glancing at Serena. His name was Roy Cutter, and he was the kind of man who thought the world belonged to him. Wait a second. Tell us where you're watching from in the comments. And don't forget to subscribe for more powerful stories like this. He took a long swig from his beer bottle, wiped his mouth with the back of his hand, and leaned toward his buddies. "What the hell is she doing here?" he muttered, just loud enough for Serena to hear. His friend, a lanky man with tattoos crawling up his arms, chuckled. "Looks lost to me." Serena ignored them. She had dealt with men like this before, ignorant, racist, and looking for trouble. She wasn't about to give them the satisfaction. But Roy wasn't the type to let things go. He stood up, his boots thudding against the tile floor, and walked toward her booth. The entire diner went quiet. Conversations stopped. The cook behind the counter froze, spatula in hand. Even the waitress pouring coffee paused mid-pour. Serena calmly chewed her food, pretending not to notice. Roy planted his hands on her table, towering over her. His breath smelled like cheap beer and cigarettes. "You lost, sweetheart," he sneered. "This ain't your kind of place." Serena slowly wiped her mouth with a napkin and looked up at him. "I'm just eating my breakfast." Roy chuckled, looking back at his buddies as if this was all a joke. "Ain't no way a girl like you just strolls in here alone. Where's your man?" Serena sighed. "Not interested." Roy's face twisted with anger. Ain't nobody asked if he was interested. The diner was dead silent now. Some people watched nervously. Others pretended to mind their own business. The waitress behind the counter clutched her coffee pot with both hands, her knuckles white. Serena had been in worse situations. She could tell Roy was the type who needed to feel in control. The moment a woman stood up to him, he saw it as disrespect. Roy suddenly grabbed Serena's arm. Big mistake. In less than a second, Serena's instincts kicked in. Before he could tighten his grip, she moved fast. She yanked her arm away, grabbed Roy's wrist, twisted it sharply, and slammed his hand against the table. The diner gasped. Roy let out a deep grunt, his knees buckling from the sudden pain. He tried to yank his hand back, but Serena's grip was like steel. "What the?" Serena calmly reached into her back pocket and pulled out a small, folded wallet. She flipped it open, revealing her U.S. Army badge. "I'm Sergeant Serena Caldwell, United States Army," she said in a level voice. "And you just made a very stupid mistake." The color drained from Roy's face. His buddies looked just as stunned. The entire diner held its breath. "Let go of me," Roy growled, trying to save face. Serena leaned in, lowering her voice so only he could hear. "If you ever put your hands on me again, I will break every bone in your arm before you hit the ground." She let go. Roy stumbled backward, cradling his wrist, humiliated. He looked around, realizing the entire diner was watching. But his pride wouldn't let him walk away. He wasn't about to be embarrassed by a black woman in front of everyone. His humiliation quickly turned to rage. "You think you're tough?" he snarled. "Just 'cause you wear a badge." Serena calmly sipped her coffee. "No, I know I am." Roy's face turned red. He clenched his fists, his whole body shaking with anger. "You're gonna regret this." Serena sighed and shook her head. "No, you're gonna regret this." The tension in the diner was thick enough to cut with a knife. Roy Cutter stood there, fists clenched, his face red with humiliation. His biker buddies watched in stunned silence, unsure if they should step in or stay out of it. The other diners held their breath, some gripping their forks so tightly their knuckles turned white. Serena Caldwell, calm as ever, finished her last sip of coffee and set her cup down. She had seen men like Roy before, loud, angry, full of hate, and desperate to prove something. He wasn't just mad because she stood up to him. He was mad because she had embarrassed him. And a man like Roy, he couldn't walk away from that. "You think you're real tough, huh?" Roy snarled, rolling his shoulders like a boxer getting ready for a fight. Serena sighed. "Walk away, Roy. You don't want this." But Roy was past listening. He was too deep in now. His pride was on the line, and he had to show everyone in that diner that a black woman, soldier or not, wasn't going to make a fool out of him. He charged. It was sloppy, slow, predictable. Serena barely moved as Roy threw a wild punch at her face. She ducked at the last second, and his fist smashed into the metal napkin holder on the table, sending it flying. He cursed, shaking his bleeding knuckles. Before he could react, Serena moved. With the precision of a trained fighter, she grabbed his wrist, twisted it behind his back, and drove her knee into his gut. Roy let out a strangled grunt as the air whooshed out of his lungs. The entire diner gasped. Roy tried to pull away, but Serena was faster. She grabbed the back of his vest, spun him around, and sent him flying into a nearby booth. Dishes shattered. A woman screamed. One of Roy's biker friends jumped up, reaching for something under his vest. Serena's sharp eyes caught the movement. "You thinking about pulling a weapon?" she asked, her voice low and dangerous. The biker froze. Serena locked eyes with him, and for the first time, he really saw her. Not just a woman, not just a soldier, but a trained warrior. If you're enjoying this story and want to hear more, hit that subscribe button now. Don't miss out. Serena turned back to Roy, who was struggling to get up. He clutched his ribs, his face twisted in pain. He had never been beaten like this before, especially not by a woman. "Had enough?" Serena asked, standing over him. Roy coughed and spat blood onto the floor. He glared up at her, hate burning in his eyes. You little." Before he could finish, the sound of sirens filled the air. Red and blue lights flashed through the diner windows. Within seconds, the front door burst open. 2 police officers stormed inside, hands on their holsters. The waitress had called 911 the moment things got out of control. "What the hell is going on here?" one of the officers barked. Everyone pointed at Roy. "She defended herself," the waitress said quickly, stepping forward. "That man attacked her first." The officer turned to Serena. "Ma'am, are you okay?" Serena nodded and pulled out her badge again. "United States Army. Sergeant Serena Caldwell." The officer's eyes widened. He knew better than to mess with a soldier, especially one who had just put a 250-pound biker on the floor like it was nothing. Roy, still gasping for breath, groaned. She attacked me." The officer looked down at him and snorted. "Yeah, looks like she did the world a favor." Another officer grabbed Roy by the arm and yanked him to his feet. "You're under arrest for harassment and assault." The entire diner erupted in cheers. Some clapped. Others laughed. The waitress gave Serena a proud smile. As the officers dragged Roy toward the exit, he struggled, still trying to hold on to what little dignity he had left. But the truth was clear to everyone in that room. He lost. Serena picked up her hoodie from the seat, pulled it on, and left a $20 bill on the table. The waitress caught up to her at the door. "You handled yourself real good in there," she said. "That man's been a bully for years. You did what nobody else had the guts to do." Serena gave her a small smile. He messed with the wrong woman. And with that, she walked out into the sunlight, leaving behind a diner full of people who would never forget what they had just witnessed. What a story. If you loved this, make sure to hit that subscribe button. More powerful stories are coming your way. Don't miss out.